The world of darkness is a great and vast setting. However, it has a significant problem. To get into the setting, you are required to invest a lot of time and effort, and that's just to find out whether you think you'll like it or not. This was a problem that my friend and I believed we could address. We decided to help newcomers and old guard alike by creating a video series that will serve not only as a great introduction to the world of darkness, but also as a lore bible. This series, following the Iceberg format, will begin with the most new player-friendly ideas, concepts and topics, and end with the most obscure, absurd, and exotic pieces of knowledge the world of darkness has to offer. I also understand that the length of this series may mean that you plan to watch it as a podcast, and that's okay. Fair warning before we continue. The world of darkness does not get its name for being kind and merciful. We delve into matters that are grim and horrifying, yet also fantastic and eye-opening. If you are under the age of 18, I must ask you to turn away. Additionally, this iceberg is already teetering on being insurmountable, and so we have decided to not include any topics relating to any other White Wolf products, such as Exalted, Chronicles, or anything else White Wolf has published, at least beyond mentioning anything relevant to the topic at hand. Now, let us begin.
Ghouls are specks of dirt at the tip of the froth on the surface of a trench so deep it is literally impossible for us to fathom.
Like all iceberg videos, we begin at the very tip of the iceberg. These concepts, ideas, and topics are so fundamental to the world of darkness that even people with a passing interest in the setting will quickly come to know of them.
Why is it, when something happens, it is always you three?
Believe me, Professor, I've been asking myself the same question for 6 years.
The world of darkness is best exemplified by the three most popular game lines: Vampire, the Masquerade, Werewolf, the Apocalypse, and Mage, the Ascension. These three are the baseline for every other game line, either mechanically, lore-wise, or sometimes both. Vampire the Masquerade was created by Mark Ryan-Hagan and released in 1991 by White Wolf Publishing. It was the first of several storyteller system games for its World of Darkness setting. In VTM, you play as the titular vampires in The Modern Knights, a fictionalized version of the modern world starting from the 1990s to the day you're watching this video, and foreseeably beyond. The exact genre of VTM depends on how you play it, but the general vibe of the game line is Gothic Punk, which perfectly encapsulates both the primeval players as well as the rebellious new bloods. VTM's vampires aren't just supernatural killers, they are beasts that reside in human flesh, and they struggle every night to keep that beast at bay, or if they've completely abandoned their former selves, to let the beast consume them. A vampire doesn't just have to worry about themselves causing their own downfall, but others as well, such as vampire hunters, other monsters, the sun, and even other vampires can bring about the end to a vampire's night. In fact, it wouldn't be fallacious to say that a vampire is the most dangerous thing to another vampire, mainly because vampire society is extremely political, with the elder vampires using their superior strength over the newly embraced vampires to enforce this rigidity, especially the rules around the Masquerade. The false pretense that they're not just beasts in the skins of men. Those vampires who survive their first nights may one day become masters of intrigue, tyranny, and the subtle arts of evil. Where VTM is about stalking streets for prey, promising and gaining powerful favours, and playing the game of politics to secure your domain and usurp another's, Werewolf the Apocalypse is a bona fide action game.
Show me a good time, Jack!
WTA was published in 1993, making it the second game line set in the classic World of Darkness game series. This game line has the players take on the roles of the Garou, tribalistic spiritual warriors who fight a two-front war against the spiritual desolation of urban civilization, as well as supernatural forces of corruption that seek to bring about the titular apocalypse. Of course, being a WOD game, it's not so simple as saying the Garou are the good guys. After all, our media is canon in WOD's universe, and Garou are not known to have the best reputation. A Garou's desire is to see the defeat and death to all that would bring harm to Gaia. A great spirit that you can imagine as something akin to the Earth's very own soul. The Garou also know that they were made to be her claws, and so they believe it is their destiny and right to use those claws, even if diplomacy was an option. Then again, oftenly, it is not. While the Garou's actions are most likely hastening the apocalypse they want to avoid, those that they face are beyond petty evils, for most of those that are targets of their wrath know what they do, especially those that work for the machinations of the Worm, a dark godlike being that wants nothing but to bring about total annihilation, and those that do its bidding wish to bring about the apocalypse directly. In the eyes of the Garou, these defilers of Gaia deserve a little bit more than a short drop and a sudden stop. We've had both political drama and action, two of the most popular genres for role-playing games, but there's one more genre that every role-playing game has the potential to become, doubly so for tabletop role-playing games. Absolute, unhinged insanity. Mage the Ascension is the third published role-playing game set in the classic World of Darkness setting. Published in 1993, players rejoiced as they finally got the chance to imagine a world where their anime waifus were real, but only if they got everyone else to agree with them wholeheartedly that they were. In MTA, you play as mages, reality warping, except not really, humans who have awakened their avatar, an ephemeral being that helps the mage walk the path to ascension. Imagine JoJo stands, but all of them drive the user to become over heaven. But with power comes ego, and for a mage, ego is power. After all, when imposing your truth on reality is quite literally how your magic works, having a strong will to back up that truth against both another mage's reality and even reality itself is quite important. So it could be said that to be a mage is to be the greatest gaslighter of all. A gaslighter so powerful, you gaslight reality itself into believing you are a god. But there is more than one way to gaslight, and it is from those differences that the Ascension Wars started. Wars that are still being fought to this day to determine the consensus of reality, with the two major players being the Council of Mystic Traditions and the Technocracy. To clarify, yes, technology is magic, and if you don't believe me, explain to me how the screen you're watching this on is not only able to display moving pictures that were captured in one place, stored in another, in the middle of nowhere, and then those stored moving pictures were then sent to your screen rather than anywhere else in the world. Don't forget too that your audio interface is also projecting my voice from the same mythical storage place. So when you realise that even modern technology is a bit ludicrous, but somehow still believable, is it that much further of a stretch to believe that all things came from the One and should go back to the One? That experiencing unknowable sensations allows you to transport your spirit to another plane of existence? That stocks and shares can change landscapes and cause grievous bodily harm to the groin region? And that Super Hogwarts exists in outer space, but may or may not have been 9/11 by ghosts and or mages? Aside from the playbooks themselves, the best way to find information about the World of Darkness is undoubtedly the White Wolf Wiki. Of course, due to being completely unbiased and not having a friend who is one of the most contributive editors on the wiki, I can say without any personal investment that this independent and collaborative fan effort internet encyclopedia is one of, if not, the greatest wikis in the world. The wiki doesn't just cover information found within the World of Darkness either. Other TTRPGs, board games, card games, novels, and more are all sourced, categorized, and available for you to peruse at your own pleasure. Being created in 2005, this White Wolf Wiki also boasts the fact it is one of the oldest still running and constantly updating wikis on the Fandom hosting website. There is one thing to note about the unofficial White Wolf Wiki, and that is the fact that it is not officially supported or licensed by White Wolf Entertainment. This comes with both benefits and drawbacks, such as the moderators keeping and maintaining most of the site exclusively towards official content, while having sections that allow users to post their own works and thoughts in blog areas. The downside is that, now that I think about it, I can't think of a downside. But what I can think of that has a downside is the fact that White Wolf has their own official wiki. However, it does not even feature nearly half as much information as the unofficial wiki, and almost all of the information found within, well, has only 5th edition in mind. Gothic Punk, a term used by White Wolf to evoke the mood and themes of the World of Darkness. The meaning of Gothic has changed over time in popular culture. The use of it here brings forth the oldest literary interpretation. Gothic describes a world of anachronisms, barbarianism, decay, madness, and a romanticized history of that which never existed. It describes a world where those who seek to live normal lives must blind themselves or be blinded by the truth, because if they found out what was really going on, they would do anything to go back into that dream. Even in this world of sleepers, the Gothic influences are felt. The Protestant churches in our world may be bare, but even those barren churches would have spires soaring skyward and gargoyles leering at those who enter. High up in the skyscrapers, the wealthy dance in their masquerade balls, indulging in their avarice, debauchery, and treachery, enjoying their ivory comfort as if this were the last night of the rest of their lives. Meanwhile, the buildings closer to the earth are suffocating and crumbling. Every street is shaded and cold, eyes always watching you from the shadows. nature creeping its many fingers into the city in order to reclaim what was once hers, taking it back from the men who have forgotten and abandoned those places. A 20th century tenement would be passed on by the unwashed, but the inside would be a refuge for the homeless, and a neo-Gothic rookery for the ever-watching birds. The Gothic castles of yore have been replaced. Now stands the merciless millionaire's mansion estate on the edge of town, his coin-bought guards patrolling the walls for signs of troublemakers. All the while, the chosen few mortals are allowed into a great hall to dance and drug themselves away from their cares, under the watchful eye of the full moon who voyeurs through the giant skylight. In the old church everyone avoids, the mad priest offers succor to those members of his flock tormented by monsters. All of them oblivious to the velvet-clad sensualists reciting exotic poetry to the ivy-choked graveyard outside, seducing the shades of the departed. The graffiti on the forgotten warehouse docks is macabre and disturbing to the soul. Its wicked depictions make men fear to tread there, for what is inside is surely worse than even the gang of skinheads who brave the warning signs, for they wanted a nice and quiet place to torment their victims. Even if none of them voiced it, each of their hearts quivered slightly, asking over and over again, "Will I be joining the tormented tonight?" Whatever is the most horrifying, debauched and sinful take on what could possibly be happening in those places, whatever your paranoid imagination conjures at its wrongness, that is but the tip of the iceberg. Another core aspect of Gothic literature, found within Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, to Dracula, to the poems of Edgar Allan Poe and more, is allegory. Each Gothic work is a realization, the human darkness mirrored with words into the twisted forms of monsters that it truly is. The men who, by day, are honourable and sophisticated, but by night are barely more than hideous and lecherous beasts who give in to their worst impulses. The tyrants of nobility who hide behind pseudo-grace and pomp, as those tyrants care not for the land and the people they rule, only the pleasures they gain from controlling the lives of others. The suffering of their subjects is but a part of their masquerade balls. This world is one where the weak are crushed because they can be crushed, and where the strong must fear everyone else lest they too be crushed. Welcome to the modern Gothic experience. But that is not the full story, for Gothic is only half of the tone setter. Punk has not been around as long as Gothic, but it has worn just as many masks. For the world of darkness, Punk refers to how people experience this Gothic world, especially you, my dear players and storytellers. Punk is about anger, getting into someone's face and saying no more, crushing those insolent upstarts for daring to seize your power, and everything is a personal attack on you, and you must defend yourself. Punk is about refusing to be ignored, shouting and screaming at the top of your lungs that you won't take it anymore, caring or not caring so much that you'll step onto whoever's toes you need to in order to get what you want to happen. Punk is about conflict. It's omnipresent, from gang wars that plague every street of every city, to the self-serving politicking within governments and corporations, the clash of cultures where domains overlap, to the struggle of a junkie chasing his next high, to the devouring dark, seeking the obliteration of all that was, that is, and that will never be, and to the pathetic personal struggles of a mother who is desperate enough to do anything to feed her crying child. Punk is rebellion. It's everywhere, always happening, and it will never go away, no matter how much you try to ignore it, stamp it out, or appease it. The very act of living, to see the next night despite the world's evils and dangers, is itself an act of defiance against this world of darkness. Everyone opposes something, but for those who live in the world of darkness, they will do anything to see that opposition destroyed, and then the next one, and the next one, ad infinitum, because there will never be a time, not even a sympathetic second, that someone or something doesn't want you, personally, dead. Punk is whatever you want it to be, because this setting will always provide a dramatic fulfillment to the role of deadly opposition.
What a scene, man! Woo-wee! Then they just plop you out here like a naked baby in the woods. How about that? Look, kiddo, this is probably a lot for you to take in, so, why don't you let me show you the ropes? What do you say? What? Oh, man! And you're a goddamn Malkavian, too. Wow! You really are fucked.
The early 2000s were a time like no other, a golden age for CRPGs that produced some of the best games the gaming industry had to offer. Along these gold veins, one can find what most fans argue is the definitive primer for anyone who is interested in the world of darkness: Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines. Created in 2004 by Troika Games for Microsoft Windows, this action role-playing video game has you playing as your own fledgling vampire in early 21st century Los Angeles. You are tasked with uncovering the truth behind a recently discovered ancient relic, something that everyone both wants and yet fears deeply, because this relic may herald the end of the world for all vampire kind. VTMB is a modern take on the classic genre of CRPG, following their quest design and storytelling structures, but with first and third person gameplay. In this game, you get to pick from an array of Camarilla aligned vampire clans, each with their own unique powers that drastically changes how you approach not only the combat, but also the dialogue. But I will warn you that VTMB isn't without its flaws, especially in regards to its bugs and glitches. Later I will go over the unofficial patches available to make this game playable, so make sure to subscribe to catch that next video.
Oh, is that right? Well, I sure hope somebody picks up that phone, because I f***ing called it!
As stated before, Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines is one of the most beloved RPGs of all time, a great experience that all cherish. So that begs the question, where's the sequel? Even Gaben can counter too. You see, dear viewer, VTMB's 2 development hell has just been that, a hell. This game has been in production for years, but due to Troika shutting down, and nobody really wanting to make it, and the fact the entire project has been used as a money laundering scheme, allegedly, well, that ship's not coasting on calm seas. To say that this game is rife with controversies before it even comes out is an understatement. In order to give justice to just how insane the development of this game has been, I would need an entire video, if not series, to truly cover it all. However, plenty of other YouTubers have already covered this topic and are still covering this topic, so as this series is already long enough, I won't go into any more details. Except for one thing, a thing I know for absolute certainty. If this game ever releases, it is going to be one of the biggest piles of hot garbage ever created.
Don't fuck with me! I have the power of God and anime on my side! Wait,
In the world of darkness, despite all of the evil that infests the world, there is undoubtedly good that can be found. You need only look for it. However, this philosophy has also made its way to the fans. Don't get me wrong, I want you to be a fan of the World of Darkness. After all, I am too. The problem isn't the fact you're a fan of WoD, but rather the way most fanatical WoD fans act. You see, WoD attracts certain types of people that one would not call normal. From goths to thespians to drama queens to Matt Mercer to furries to emos to fairies, and to the worst of them all, LARPers. If there's a kind of weirdo, the World of Darkness beacons to them like a ship to rocks. Legends tell that there are even fans who have consumed so much lore and have been entrenched in the Wiki for so long that their brains have rotted and melted out of their ears.
You may have cured my human victims of their disease, but no earthly medicine can cure a supernatural affliction.
As you could guess from the prior entry, I'm not the biggest fan of the World of Darkness's LARP scene. Live action role-playing, also known as LARP or LARPing, is a style of role-playing in which the players physically act out most of their character's actions rather than the traditional descriptions and mechanics that most TTRPGs are designed to use. While I may not be the biggest fan of LARPing, there are aspects to it that I do think are admirable. The main aspect being the far greater degree of physical preparation than a traditional tabletop role-playing session, usually taking the forms of costumes, props and set design. Although none of these elements are strictly mandatory to LARP. After all, you can use anything and nothing to play pretend. I should make one personal thing clear. If you LARP within your own home or on your own property, or on whosever property that you're friends and or family with, then I have no problem with you LARPing, as you are doing so within the privacy of your own dwelling, and what happens in there is none of my business, mainly because you haven't made it my business. The LARPing I do find disgusting are the ones who do it out in the open, or, God forbid, in public spaces. You're not making role-playing look cool, you're making LARPing look bad. Obviously, I'm not talking about or discrediting cosplayers. They're an entirely different can, and, usually, not one filled with worms. The other thing that I will say is that LARPing is technically TTRPG heresy, since the nature of LARPing makes hauling around a character sheet, dice sack, and rulebook immersion breaking, meaning you're just role-playing, and probably not using a tabletop, unless to hold snacks and drinks. I understand that people can do whatever they want to do at their own times of leisure. However, there comes a point where what you're doing is so disconnected from the original intent and identity that it isn't really the same thing anymore. At what point does having one or two options that actually affect the story make a JRPG not an RPG? Does having a character sheet at all make it an RPG? Is it the player choices available? The quest design? Because I feel like JRPGs would rather be cinematic experiences than emulations of the tabletop experience. But if that's what separates an RPG from a JRPG, that means most JRPGs are disqualified, including some of the most popular. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh right, LARPing. What's made the World of Darkness LARP scene especially prolific is the fact that White Wolf has been at the forefront of LARPing since 1993, when Vampire the Masquerade was adapted to the live-action format in The Masquerade. Later, Laws of the Night, the first Mind's Eye Theatre live-action game. Many ideas and standards set by Met remain in use to this day by other unrelated LARP systems and players, particularly those that share its origin in tabletop role-playing. Despite the seemingly benign and positive start of LARPing, with Met being credited with the popularization of the genre in America, it has since garnered a terrible reputation both in and outside of role-playing circles. This is due to it attracting arsey thespians who take role-playing far too seriously for comfort. One such instance literally involving a crime, and the second is because the current edition, that being 5th, is being dragged into fanfiction hell by a hardcore LARPer. Rather than seeking to expand on 20th edition in meaningful and obvious ways that were literally written and published for him to follow up on, Jason Carl has made it his mission to absolutely ruin all of what's canon, especially if he gets to contradict something awesome in 20th. Hey, so this video took so long to come out that the lead writers for WOD 5e has changed. Jason Carl is still there, but Jess Lanzillo is now the lead writer, the same woman who ruined Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons by pushing a bunch of political and AI art. But that's a whole thing for another time, and not relevant for this iceberg. More on the 5th edition and 20th edition in the next video.
Lord, damn it! How can this be? What a cruel twist of fate. And isn't it like 9 PM? Oh, fucking daylight savings.
Speaking of Jason Carl, LA by Night is an American actual play web series where the cast play as vampires using VTM's 5th edition rule set. It is set canonically in the World of Darkness series after the events of VTMB and focuses on kindred society in Los Angeles. It premiered in September 2018. The show's current storyline concluded with its 5th season in 2021. A sequel series titled NY by Night started in July 2022. It has since also spawned 2 other actual plays, such as Seattle by Night and Vain Pursuit. Despite being an official production backed by Paradox for their VTM license, the live plays have garnered notoriety for their lore contradictions and controversial choices on partner creatives. The real question is, do I like LA by Night? No. And I don't recommend it either. If you wish for a World of Darkness web series to get into, I could make one myself. Or you can watch Hunter the Parenting. I highly recommend you do if you're interested in the World of Darkness. We have even dedicated a whole section to it in the next video.
Wait, mother of goose, Jack!
Well, you know what they say. Can't bake a pie without losing a dozen men.
Oh, that was horrible! Your wish is horrible! You're horrible! You're an irredeemable monster!
Oh, what took you so long, idiot?
A lot of fans believe that every faction, group, and possibly every individual within the World of Darkness is, was, or will be evil. Even those who are seemingly the good guys from both a meta and in-universe perspective must have ulterior motives. Either that, or the methods they use are so vile that whatever good they're trying to achieve is rendered pointless. The truth of this popular idea is up to interpretation, of course, specifically the interpretation of your storyteller. However, I personally believe that if there isn't any good in the World of Darkness, there's very little to actually be for or against, especially from a meta perspective. Maybe the imbued are actually trying and succeeding to do good by slaying monsters. Maybe there are some mages who aren't being selfish pricks, but are rather using their magic for the good of others. Maybe the werewolves can actually get a win for once, without causing more worm taint. Maybe some of the Sabbat actually want to destroy the antediluvians, but instead of causing maximum carnage, decide minimal casualties is the way to go. Perhaps the mummies should still be canon and a real faction, so that the storyteller and players know what playing unambiguously good characters truly looks like and plays like in the World of Darkness. Look at that runtime, and we've only just finished the tip of the iceberg. I believe the word metaphor is appropriate here. I hope to see you in part 2. Have a nice night, and I wish you all the best.